Hello, my name is Dr. Demetra Smith, and I am the Director of Capable Minds, Hearts, and Hands, the Potter's House IDD Outreach. Our mission is to serve, empower, and involve those with intellectual or developmental disabilities alongside their families and caregivers. We believe every person is made in God's image and has a place and a purpose in God's kingdom. We also strive to provide individuals with IDD the tools to collaborate, to solve problems, to create, communicate, and connect. And one of the ways that Capable Minds, Hearts, and Hands fosters empowerment is through effective communication to and with all individuals. However, a journey to empowerment is not an isolated journey, but one where members of the community, in partnership with their family, their caregivers, their siblings, teachers, and leaders, are given the tools to become self-advocates through effective engagement and effective communication. So let's ask ourselves, what is our responsibility as community advocates when it comes to effective communication? Well, let me share with you in this first of a three-part series tips on how you can effectively communicate with individuals with disabilities so that they feel seen, they feel heard, and they feel included. So let's get started. First are general recommendations for communicating with all persons, no matter what their condition. First, talk to persons with disabilities in the same way and with a normal tone of voice, not yelling, as you would talk to anyone else. Avoid being self-conscious about your use of wording such as, do you see what I mean? Do you hear what I'm saying? When talking to someone with a vision impairment, they get it. Talk to people with disabilities as adults, if they're adults, and talk to them directly rather than to the person that they're with. Ask the person with a disability if they need assistance. Don't assume that they need it. It's okay to ask. It's important to remember to use people-first language and refer to a person with a disability rather than this is a disabled person or the disabled. People, then condition. When communicating with the person who has a disability, it's important that we take steps to ensure that effective communication strategies are used. And that's why we're here. This includes sitting or standing at eye level with the patient or with the individual and making appropriate eye contact so that they're not always looking up at you. Now let's dig in a little deeper. What about communicating with individuals with intellectual, cognitive, or developmental disabilities? Well, first of all, if they're adults, treat adults with intellectual, cognitive, or developmental disabilities as adults. Adjust your method of communication as necessary depending on how they respond to you. Use simple, direct sentences, and you can add in supplementary forms of communication, gestures, diagrams, or demonstrations as needed. Just because a person doesn't use their voice to make a sound doesn't mean that they don't have a voice. So write it down. Sometimes it's helpful if you write it down and use concrete, specific language. Avoid abstract language and simplistic wording. Now, when it's possible, use words that are relatable between the two of you. And avoid using directional terms such as right, left, east, or west, because remember, their right, left, east, or west may be opposite of yours, and it probably is. Be prepared to repeat the same information more than once in multiple different ways. When asking questions, phrase them without suggesting desired or preferred responses, as some people may tell you what they think you want to hear. Avoid giving too many directions at one time, which can be confusing. Eliminate distractions and, if possible, minimize background noise. Avoid sensory overload by providing information gradually and clearly. Provide information in written or verbal form if that is what the person prefers, and recognize that the person may need to have directions repeated. They may take notes to help them remember the sequence, and they may also benefit from watching you demonstrate the task before they're asked to perform it. Now, don't pretend to understand if you don't understand. Ask the person to repeat themselves. Remember, you have to be patient, you have to be flexible, and above all, you have to be supportive. Don't assume that the person will be able to read well. Some may not read at all, and guess what? Some may not even have English as their primary language. So you have to make appropriate accommodations in communicating. These are recommendations for communicating with individuals who have mobility limitations. Now keep in mind, the personal space of a person with a disability includes their wheelchair, it includes their scooter, it includes their crutches, their walking cane, or any other mobility aid. That's their space. And so don't ever push or move a person's device or even grab their arm without asking first. When you're speaking to a person who's in a wheelchair or a scooter, sit so that you're at the same eye level as them, connect with them, and look them in the eye. When giving directions to people with mobility limitations, consider how far it is, the distance, weather conditions, and any other physical obstacles such as stairs, curbs, or hills that might impede. Shake hands when introduced to a person with a disability. People who have limited hand use or who even wear artificial limbs can still and want to shake your hand. Now, here are the next set of tips. These are recommendations for communicating with individuals who have sight impairment. Identify yourself when you approach a person who has low vision or blindness. Introduce yourself to the person so that they know what your name is and who you are. If the person happens to use glasses, ensure that they're available so that the person is able to use them. Touch the person's arm lightly when you speak so that he or she knows to whom you are speaking before you begin. Face the person and speak directly to him. Use a normal tone of voice and don't yell. They can hear you. When you offer assistance to someone with vision loss, allow the person to take your arm. Or if you need to place their hand on a chair, place the person's hand on the back or the arm of the seat, especially if they're about to sit down, so that they can gauge the distance. Never pet or otherwise distract a service animal unless given permission to do so. And so, thank you for understanding how important it is to engage in different ways with those individuals with sight impairment. Now let's shift for a moment to individuals with hearing impairment. When you're dealing with a person that has hearing loss, deafness, or even deaf and blind, ask that person or ask them in a way that they can understand how they prefer to be communicated with. And again, it's important to minimize background noise and distractions. If you're speaking through a sign language interpreter, pause occasionally so that the interpreter has time to catch up and completely and accurately convey your message. Talk directly to the person who is being assisted by the sign language interpreter, not to the interpreter, even though the person may be looking at the interpreter. Make your communication distinct and direct. And before you start to speak, remember, get the attention of the person that you're addressing. Wave at them, use a light touch, but get their attention so that they know you want to engage with them. If the person uses a communication device, such as a manual or electronic communication board, ask the person the best way for you to use it so that you can engage with them. Again, do not pretend to understand if you don't. Tell the person that you simply do not understand what they've said and ask them to repeat it, to message it, to spell it, to tell it in a different way, or even to write it down. They may even use hand gestures to make the communication more clear and more effective. Repeat what they've said that you understand and note their reaction, which indicates that you've understood correctly. Don't negate the art of active listening. Before engaging with individuals, it's important to develop a specific communication strategy that is in line with the person's abilities. Nod of the head, blinking, indicating agreement, or writing it down. A disability is not an indication of low intelligence. So please avoid insulting the person's intelligence with oversimplification. These are just a few of the helpful tips to ensure that individuals with disabilities or different limitations are heard, they're seen, they're included, they're engaged, and when they have this type of engagement, they feel valued. So I want to invite you to join us for the next segment of Mapping a Journey to Empowerment. Don't forget to visit our website at tphidd.org to receive more information. Take a look at our events calendar, and of course, we want you to give a donation so that you can help us provide more custom programming and opportunities. Until next time, in the words of Mrs. Sarita Jakes, it takes a village to raise a child. And within the Potter's House walls, there are many villages and many families that all have capable minds, they all have capable hands, and they all have capable hearts.